Darth Malagon.
2,871 years before the Battle of Yavin, on the peaceful world of Onderon, about 80 cliques outside of Izes, a young boy and his brother were fishing along the bank of a river where their family was camping. That's when the two boys heard what sounded like an explosion in the sky. They quickly looked up to find a ship crashing toward the planet, engulfed in flames. They ran to get their father Zelko, who quickly got in his speeder and headed toward the crash site. When he arrived, he found an Ithorian and a human. The human was dead, but the Ithorian was still clinging to life. He quickly helped the Ithorian into his speeder and contacted his wife, Larona, and explained the situation. He took the Ithorian directly to the medical facility in their family compound. It was much closer than going all the way to Izes, at least half the distance. Larona and the boys quickly packed up the campsite and returned to their shuttle. Upon arrival, Thyron, the eldest of the two boys, yelled, "Mother! What kind of ship is that?" Larona and the boys looked up to the sky and saw a large capital ship descending through the atmosphere. A small squadron of ships could be seen proceeding from the ship toward the crash site. The barely conscious Ithorian, who knew he was being pursued, pleaded with Zelko to conceal him from those who sought him, that they were Sith. He then revealed that he is Jedi Master Gorak Niza of the Jedi Council on Coruscant. Zelko was no friend of the Sith, and had only ever heard good stories of the Jedi, so he made a promise to conceal Gorak from the Sith. Therrell, the youngest brother, had snuck into the medical room that Gorak was taken to. His father noticed him attempting to hide and called for him to come out. Therrell was reluctant, but he obeyed his father. Zelko was not happy with his 5-year-old son for sneaking in and ordered him to leave. About 6 weeks went by until Gorak was fully recovered, and during that time, Zelko had learned to never speak of the Jedi to anyone, for there was a new ruler of Onderon, a Sith Lord by the name of Darth Thraxus. Being of noble birth, Zelko was a member of the king's court, and within a day after Gorak's crash, Thraxus invaded Izes, slayed the king, and established himself as Emperor of Onderon. He ruled the people through fear, and no one dared to challenge his authority and power. All who did were executed. Each family of nobility was tasked with overseeing excavation projects. Zelko explained to Gorak that Thraxus was convinced there was an ancient Jedi or Sith artifact on the planet. Gorak admitted he too sensed a power he could not explain while surveying the planet just before his encounter with the Sith. Thyron had friends visiting their compound. His friends began to bully Therrell, taking a toy he was playing with and throwing it over his head. Gorak had seen the boys toying with Therrell and was about to tell them to stop, but Therrell became angry and threw one of Thyron's friends across the courtyard without even touching him. From that moment on, Gorak knew that Therrell was the disturbance he sensed. He went to Zelko and explained what he saw and how he believed young Therrell was exceedingly strong in the Force. He vowed to repay his debt by helping Therrell and tutoring him in the ways of the Force. Zelko was reluctant, but he ultimately agreed, as Gorak would be able to help Therrell control himself, so they would not draw the attention of Thraxus. For the next 10 years, Therrell trained with Gorak. As each year passed by, Thyron became jealous of his brother's abilities. Therrell was now 15 and had mastered nearly everything Gorak had taught him, including Form 5 lightsaber combat. On a cool afternoon, after Gorak and Therrell had meditated, Therrell asked Gorak how he came to crash on Onderon. Gorak explained how he felt the Force pulling him toward Onderon. He petitioned the Jedi Council to approve of a Jedi mission to Onderon to discover this disturbance in the Force. The Council did not approve, because they did not sense this disturbance that Gorak had felt. Gorak insisted that they would reconsider, but they told him he would have to go alone if he desired to seek out what he felt. He would receive no rescue if something went wrong. Gorak's former Padawan, a Jedi Knight named Paktu, requested to join him on the journey. Together they left Coruscant and traveled to Onderon. When they arrived, they began to survey the planet for any kind of ancient temples or ruins. Their survey was interrupted by a Sith warship, which began to fire on them immediately. Paktu's instrument panel exploded in his face, and he died instantly. Gorak did everything he could to safely land the ship, but it was too damaged. He used the Force to create a bubble of protection, hoping it would help him survive the crash. As he finished telling Thero the story, they noticed Thyron heading toward one of the family speeders. Thero asked him where he was going, and Thyron responded by saying he was going out to hunt. Gorak could see right through him, though. Something was off. He wasn't being honest about his goings. Gorak expressed to Thero that he sensed deception in Thyron's heart, and that he was going to follow him closely. Thero wanted to come with Gorak, but Gorak ordered him to stay behind. And Thero was never one to follow the rules, so he secretly followed Gorak. It became clear to Gorak that Thyron was going to Isis, but for what purpose? When they approached the city, Thyron immediately went to the palace and spoke with an Imperial guard. The guard escorted Thyron to the throne room. When the doors opened, he became instantly struck with fear as he laid eyes on the massive 8'7" cybernetically enhanced Wookiee sitting on the throne. His hands began to quiver as he approached Darth Thraxis, who let out a loud roar. Immediately, a translation droid stepped forward and said,
Lord Thraxis demands why you approach his throne without being summoned.
Thyron explained that he had crucial information that would please Thraxis. Thraxis laughed in doubt that anything this puny human had to offer would please him. Thyron then told Thraxis about Gorak hiding in secret, but did not tell him it was his family that hid him for all these years. While Thyron was before Thraxis, Gorak sneaked past the Imperial Guard and barged into the throne room. Thero had disguised himself as a servant, serving food and drink to the various court members. As Gorak entered the throne room, Thyron quickly said, "There's the Jedi!" He then fled the palace and quickly made his way home to his mother. Gorak unsheathed his lightsaber and ignited it. The vibrant green blade hummed throughout the throne room. The Imperial guards quickly positioned themselves in front of Thraxis, but he roared for them to step aside. He planned on handling Gorak himself. As he stood from his throne, he towered over Gorak, who began to swing at the Wookiee Sith Lord. Thraxis laughed and dodged each of his swings before grabbing Gorak's arms and lifting him in the air. His sheer physical prowess forced Gorak to drop his lightsaber. Thraxis then ignited his own double-bladed crimson saber and thrust it into Gorak's torso, laughing while he twisted the blade left and right. He then used his saber to immediately slice Gorak in half vertically. Immediately, Thraxis heard a shout in his court. Thero yelled, "No!" Simultaneously, Thraxis saw Gorak's lightsaber fly toward those who were observing the entire thing. Thero ignited the blade and used the Force to throw it toward Thraxis. But Thraxis quickly used the Force to pull one of his court members in the path of the blade and himself. The unfortunate soul was instantly cut in half and perished. Thraxis laughed maniacally, and Thero fell to his knees in agony. He began to weep and scream. He killed his own father. While Thraxis was laughing, the entire palace began to shake violently. The floor began to crack and split, and Thraxis' laughter was quenched by fear. This was the disturbance he felt 10 years ago when he invaded Onderon. In that very same moment, as he was thinking about why he came, Thraxis was raised into the air, unable to breathe. Thero, still sobbing with his head down, began to slowly raise his hand toward Thraxis. He then violently looked up toward Thraxis and shouted, "I hate you!" And he began to crush Thraxis' entire body inward so that he wasn't even recognizable. He then used the Force to pick up Gorak's saber and slaughtered all of the Imperial Guard and the court members who were loyal to Thraxis. As he disengaged the saber, he swore to himself that he would never, ever let the saber leave his side again. The remaining court members began to praise Thero for his victory, but Thero didn't want any part of it. He told the other nobles to reinstate the previous family as the rightful rulers of Onderon. He gathered what he could of his father and Gorak, and departed for his family's compound to bury them. Upon arrival, he was greeted by his mother, who was unaware of what transpired, apart from what Thyron had told her. Larona urged Thero to gather his things so that they could leave, fearing the Sith would come and eliminate them. Thero reassured her that the Sith would not come. He told her that he killed Thraxus. She asked him about Zelko and Gorak. He showed her the bodies and explained what happened. Thyron overheard the conversation and immediately accused his brother of being a murderer. Thero became enraged with his brother, believing that everything that transpired was his fault. If he had never gone to Isis and exposed Gorak, none of this would have ever happened. Gorak would still be alive, and their father would still be alive. Thero grabbed his lightsaber, but Thyron taunted him, saying, "Can't take me on without your saber?" Thero smirked and said, "I don't need this weapon to take you on." He placed the saber back on his belt, and he used the force to pull Thyron to himself, gripping his neck and slamming him down. He then began to endlessly beat Thyron in the face with his fists. Larona ran over to Thero to try and get him to stop, but in his anger, Thero used the force to throw Larona away from him. He went to continue beating his brother, but he stopped the moment he heard a tree branch snap. As he let go of his nearly unconscious brother, he turned to see that he had thrown his mother into a broken tree branch and impaled her. Distraught with grief and rage, Thero reached for his lightsaber, only to find it would not ignite. He began to hit the hilt over and over and over again, hoping it would ignite, but nothing worked. It was this moment he realized he was no longer connected to the crystal. He reached out with the force as an attempt to connect, but it refused to bond with him. He was unbalanced and unhinged. This infuriated Thero even more, to the point he began to use the force to bend the crystal to his will. As he focused all his rage and anger into the Kyber crystal, he could feel it crying out in pain as it began to submit to him. He ignited the saber one more time, and this time, a bright crimson blade began to emit. He could feel the power coursing through him, the power of the dark side. This pleased him, and his gaze shifted toward his brother. He used the force to lift Thyron in the air and dismembered his arms and legs. He brought him close and said, "From now on, you will be my slave. Everything that transpired here is your fault, and you will live the rest of your life unable to do anything but wallow in sorrow." But while he hated his brother, he could not bring himself to end his life. He instructed the medical droids to collect Thyron and equip him with prosthetics that would only allow him to do the basic fundamentals, such as walking and eating, but not so advanced that he could ever take revenge on Thero. While Thyron was in surgery, Thero couldn't help but reflect on the day. He got a taste of darkness, and he liked it. He recalled how he made the entire palace shake, and wondered how he could achieve such power again. Maybe there was more potential he has yet to unlock. Over the next year, Thero became stronger in the Force, so strong that Onderon began to have frequent quakes from the sheer use of his power. One night, while Thero was meditating in the courtyard of his home, he felt something pulling to him. He suddenly appeared in the cosmos, feeling something in the direction of Korriban. Although he did not know it was Korriban, and he knew nothing of the planet itself, but what he felt reminded him of Thraxus. This angered him. He hated the Sith for killing Gorak and his father, and he hated the Jedi for giving up on Gorak. He felt strongly that he must rid the galaxy of both Jedi and Sith, and he knew that what he felt would lead him to do so.